Hey YouTube fam, it's your girl Leah back again with another video. In today's video, as you can see from the title, it's just something a little different from my channel. It's a movie review, and it's gonna be a review on that new movie that came out on Netflix, Self-Made, the story of Madam C.J. Walker and her building her empire. Now, as I said in the beginning, it's a little different from my channel in the sense that I've never done a movie review on this platform before, but I thought it was so inspirational to my life, and I needed a movie like this because if you're not familiar with my channel, this is something I want to do. I want to be the Madam C.J. Walker for crochet hair. Over the last, I'd say 6 months, it's been in my brain that that is what I want to do. We don't have a huge space for black women in the crochet hair community, although we purchase a lot, but I digress. Let's just get into the movie. Now, I'll spend the first 2 minutes maybe giving a spoiler free, and then after that it'll be all spoilers. So if you have not watched the movie, my first recommendation is go watch this movie. This movie, or mini series, let me not call it a movie, it's more like a mini series in the way that The Temptations was a mini series. You know, the movie Ray was a movie. This is a mini series that was kind of broken up, but of course if you watch it in one whole sitting, it feels like you're watching a movie in a sense. So they're about 45-minute long episodes, and it kind of details Madam C.J. Walker's life from really, I'd say, her later years all the way up until her untimely death. But I have to say, recommendation 1, watch the movie. Definitely need to see more movies like that, so the more eyes we get on this movie, the better it is for our community. We need Netflix to see, hey, this is #1. I think right now as I'm recording this, Self-Made is #1. We need more of this so that they can make more of this. So I think Octavia Spencer did an amazing job. I think she did a phenomenal job. She always does a phenomenal job in my opinion. I have yet to see Octavia Spencer bad performance. Blair Underwood again did an amazing job. He, you know, plays a certain kind of character, and we always know that, but he always plays that certain kind of character well. I have to say, I love the outfit choices of this movie. I love the hair of many of the actors in this movie. I think they did a phenomenal job, whereas, you know, a lot of jokes were made about, you know, a fall from grace in terms of the wigs and the hair. I think that natural kind of hair is a hair that people can do beautifully when it comes to wigs and wig format. I think for some reason sometimes I see a more silky kind of laid hair and the wig looks bad, and you can kind of tell the wig looks bad, but when it's kind of that more yaki texture hair, I love that because I think they can do yaki texture hair so well. I think the length of it was pretty good. I don't think I felt like I was watching too long of a movie. I think overall that would be my recommendation. Great movie in terms of everything I just mentioned. Definitely go watch it. Again, as I mentioned, I watched this movie because it was important to me as somebody who in the future wants to make Leah Lavon a brand. I want it to become so synonymous that crochet hair and Leah Lavon go together that you won't be able to not walk into a store and see Leah Lavon on a shelf and not pick it up. You'll see Main Concept, you'll see Free Tress, Milky Way brands that have longevity, but seeing Leah Lavon on the shelves would be my ultimate goal. And I mean like in-store shelves, not like selling directly on a site. I want to see me on shelf. So seeing a movie like this is, I guess, more influential to my life because, again, I want to go into manufacturing. What does manufacturing look like for me? What does supply chain look like for me? What does logistics, what does marketing, all that look like for me from that perspective? So to see the first woman, not black woman, woman millionaire ever be a black woman, happen to be a black woman, is influential to me. Also in the fact that she wanted to be in the hair industry. Movies like Hidden Figures do it for me, all these types of movies, but I think this one specifically, because it was related to hair, really spoke to me, and that's why I wanted to make today's videos, because this movie spoke to me in a way not any other movie has spoken to me. I think growing up, I knew who Madam C.J. Walker was on a kind of overarching level. You know, I think I've known her from grade school. I know in grade school we used to have projects, Black History Month being February. Well, I remember one year we had to pick out of a hat who we got. I know another student got Madam C.J. Walker. I that year got Phyllis Wheatley, so I can tell you everything about Phyllis Wheatley, the black poet, but I can't tell you a lot about Madam C.J. Walker on a deep level, but I do know her overarching, what she's done for hair, the hot comb, all the things they talked about in this movie. I had a high level knowledge, but this movie did kind of break it down a little bit more, so I kind of have a little bit more details on who she was. Now, what I didn't like, some things I didn't like, because I told you guys in the title, I hope that I was going to tell the good and the bad. Liked some of the things I just talked about. What I didn't like was I love Tiffany Haddish as a person. I love her in my Groupon commercials and all that, but I do feel like her performance took me a little bit out of it. Tiffany Haddish gets in that same category with Kevin Hart for me sometimes, where I see Kevin Hart in Essential Intelligence, A Night School, a Jumanji, a Think Like a Man, all the movies that he's in, and I see him in those movies and I always see Kevin Hart, Kevin Hart, Kevin Hart, and I haven't ever seen him in a role where I'm like, it's taking me out of it. I don't see Kevin Hart as that. He's an Oscar winner. He's transformative. Like, I think Jamie Foxx, always watching him in the Jamie Foxx show, I always had that one perception of him, and then he moved over to Ray and I was like, oh, okay, I'm seeing a different side of him. I think Tiffany Haddish is in the category more so of a Kevin Hart more than she is a Jamie Foxx, in the sense that I see Tiffany Haddish in A Night School, in A Girl's Trip, and now even in this, and it's so hard for me to take it out because, again, this movie is over 100 years ago. I'm still hearing Tiffany Haddish speak as if it is now time. Of course, she's not using kind of some of the lingo, but her vocalizations and her mannerisms are definitely something of 2020 and, you know, 1909. So again, it was a little bit jarring, but Tiffany Haddish, not a bad actress. I think that her playing this role at being in 1909 didn't really translate well. So even Sweetness, even Bill Bellamy as Sweetness, I think those were transformative. It kind of felt like it was a time, whereas Tiffany Haddish, anytime she was on screen, it kind of felt like, woo, are we in 2000s? Are we in the aughts? What's going on right now? So again, Tiffany Haddish, I really want that for her. I really want her to have a role one day where she breaks out of Tiffany Haddish and we really do see her, because I'm not actively rooting against her. A lot of people are actively rooting against Tiffany Haddish. I think she has the opportunity to be the Jamie Foxxes. Will Smith, Fresh Prince. I'm sure nobody believed that he was ever going to be anything but Fresh Prince, and then you see him in serious roles and you're like, okay. I think that episode where he cried about his dad really transformed him into the actor he is now, where he can play, you know, in The Pursuit of Happiness, but also be the Fresh Prince. I think Tiffany Haddish just got to find that role, got to accept that role where it does kind of shift the focus on her. So again, Tiffany Haddish, not a bad performance, just a performance. Every time she was on screen, it kind of took me out. And then also the music was another thing that kind of took me out a little bit at some points, but then I was, again, back into it. At any moment, I thought I was going to hear, take my freedom, putting it on the, you know, I'm not a good singer, but I just felt like Living My Life Like It's Golden was going to come on at any shoot. I thought Octavia Spencer was going to be walking down the street and I was going to hear that music playing, and every time they played a modern song, I was kind of like, well, what's going on here? It took it out for me a little bit. You know, there are some movies where, you know, I'm watching Titanic, you know, you watch the Rays, the Titanics, even the Dreamgirls, those type of movies, the Temptations movies, again, those are based off of musical things, but like I mentioned, Hidden Figures, those types of movies, they had period specific songs, and it's not like you heard music that kind of had an upbeat tempo and it kind of took you out. So again, the music did kind of take me back a little bit. It took me back for like 2 seconds and then I was right back in it though. So it doesn't alarm me to the point where I'm completely tuned out. It's just you know, at any moment I thought I was gonna hear what comes around. Like I thought when she was breaking up it was gonna be a Beyonce song somewhere in there. So I was very taken aback. Now, something a lot of you guys who watch me in other realms and watch me in other videos know I'm a big history fan, love history, would have majored in history if I knew what I could do with it. When I was in school, I just didn't know what a history degree could get me. So I just decided to pursue business, and that's what kind of world I work in now. But history is my favorite genre. I'm the person who will sit down and watch a documentary. I love a boring documentary, and I mean documentary. I love movies like, you know, Straight Outta Compton. I love movies like Dreamgirls. I love movies like The Five Heartbeats, The Temptations, and all that. But I love a good history kind of docu-series. I can sit down and watch The Crown, which is a good show on Netflix, which is boring to a lot of people, but me, I like the history of it. But as I mentioned in just a minute ago, there are movies like The Five Heartbeats, and then there's the Temptations movie. Then we have Dreamgirls, and the Supremes haven't come out with a movie yet, but we know Dreamgirls is supposed to be based off of the Supremes. We know movies like The Five Heartbeats are supposed to be based off the Temptations, but there are no names. The Five Heartbeats, I know a lot of people may not know, this is not a real group. The Dreamgirls is not a real group, but it's heavily implied that it's based off of Supremes. Five Heartbeats heavily implied that it's not just the Temptations, but like the Four Tops, all the big groups of that time merged into one. So they're not factual type movies. I think this movie hits along the lines of being a dramatization of Madam C.J. Walker's life, kind of a fictionalization. And again, nothing wrong with an entertaining movie, nothing wrong with an entertaining movie, but I hope people aren't going into this thinking they're getting 100% historical accuracy. You know, with the NWA movie, Straight Outta Compton, we have the luxury of everybody from that movie being alive except for Eazy-E to share their stories, sharing experiences. Maybe they beefed it up a little bit, but for the most part, I think the actors and even Eazy-E's wife said it was pretty accurate to what exactly happened. The Temptations movie, although we had 4, you know, of those members no longer with us at the time Otis Williams made that movie, he told his experiences. Now, of course, David Ruffin's family came out being angry at those types of things that were displayed, but again, overarching, they did try to make a movie based off the Temptations' life. No, David Ruffin wasn't thrown out of a car. He was kind of thrown in a hospital, though, if you look up the real facts on how David Ruffin died. No, Blue didn't wheel to the kitchen and pass away that way. But again, he did pass away. So overarching, they did add a little bit more drama to the movie, but overarching, a lot of the elements in those movies were true. Upon doing my research after watching this movie, although we used the name Madam C.J. Walker, a lot of the things weren't true and factual in this movie, and that's what kind of took me, somebody who loves history, somebody who loves docuseries, out of it. Again, if I had gone into it knowing maybe that it was going to be more so a, you know, 5 Heartbeats, where it's going to be Madam C.J. Walker's name, but there were going to be a lot of kind of additives in it to kind of take you out of the actual history of it. Like looking at dates of this movie, looking at certain dates, there are things, you know, of course, the divorces for both her daughter and her happened a lot earlier than they were depicted in the movie, but it's a movie that really didn't throw me off. The dates, although after researching, I was like, hey, her and her husband were divorced like a long time before she actually passed away. Not a long time, but at least 7 years had passed, and she had been divorced before she passed away. So again, things like that, understand, it's a movie, you gotta kind of zhuzh it up a little bit, a wee bit. So fudging the numbers on the dates and, you know, having Tiffany Haddish and her husband dancing like they were, it adds a little bit of jokiness to the movie. Not sure if that even happened, pretty sure it didn't happen, but you know, the Tiffany Haddish, you have her comedic ability, why not tie it in? And I think that's what the movie was doing when she and her husband were dancing. But I think the thing that really kind of took me out of the movie and kind of made me raise an eyebrow was that Addie Munroe storyline. If you don't know, it's based off of Annie Malone. Annie Malone was a pioneer as well, a lady millionaire as well. She was not mulatto, as the movie called it. She was fully black, born just like how Madam C.J. Walker was to 2 enslaved parents. So she was fully African American and did kind of the same thing, but the way the movie depicted it, Addie Munroe, and again, it's hard for me because her name is so similar, Annie Malone, Addie Munroe, they definitely wanted you to draw some similarities there, although they of course changed the name because they had to. Legally, you could not use Annie Munroe's name in the movie, but they said, you know, we're gonna use the A and the M. Addie, Annie, very close. Munroe, Malone, same thing. But Annie Malone got the worst end of the stick here. She was a pioneer. She might have not been the first black millionaire, but she was a millionaire, and I think a lot of people didn't get to see that in this movie. Again, this was not a movie trying to highlight Annie Malone, but it was a movie where you could have uplifted 2 black women. They didn't have to create Addie Malone's character. They could have created a whole nother person. If we were going to make up something, because they of course made up that name, they could have made up a name that wasn't so similar. That kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, because you made up a name of somebody where it's very similar. So a lot of people aren't going to do their research. So when they see Annie Malone's name now, a lot of people have not done that research. So they're going to have an image in their head that she's kind of a mixed lady who was very mean to Madam C.J. Walker. Yeah, they were rivals. They were in the same business. Madam C.J. Walker originally did work for Annie Malone. The true story is she fully worked for her. She was one of her Puro girls. That's what they were called. She was a Puro agent for her. She finally left the company and then started her own company right after that. Kind of showing the same, the miracle hair grower. Annie Malone had that business. She was a worker for her, and then she left and created her own Madam C.J. Walker. So in essence, Annie Malone did have the business beforehand. She was kind of a pioneer. And then Madam C.J. Walker did what a lot of people do. They created it and went along with it. If you guys have ever watched this movie on Netflix called The Founder is a powerful movie showing how McDonald's came about. McDonald's was two brothers who created McDonald's, and they had one location, and they were perfectly happy with their one location doing what they did. And then a guy came in and he made McDonald's what it is today. He expounded upon it. Now that movie makes him look ruthless. It makes him look terrible. It makes him look like a terrible person, but he did what the McDonald's brothers didn't do. He made a business what it is. So Madam C.J. Walker did what a lot of businesses do. She saw what her company was doing. She decided to do it on her own, and she just happened to do it better. So we know Madam C.J. Walker. Well, we don't know a lot about Annie Malone. But again, this movie is going to make it so that people don't want to look into it. I'll link up a documentary of Annie Malone above so you can kind of get more information on her. But again, I just do not like how the movie portrayed her. I don't think it was right. I don't think they needed to. I don't know what Annie Malone's family, if she even has family kind of around right now. But I really, really would hope this will make them want to push her story out more, because this movie, again, it didn't owe Annie Malone anything, didn't have to do anything, but they didn't have to put a name so similar like Annie Munroe, make her a colorist and all that. But again, I get what they did. They were trying to have a colorist aspect to it, and again, colorism was a huge issue then, still a huge issue now. We're never gonna, I pray that we get away from it, but I don't know if in my lifetime we're gonna get away from colorism. Again, in the movie they talk about the Walker girl who's on the packaging for things, but if you look at all the crochet hairs out there, who is this? The same kind of female type look is used for all the crochet hair out there. So again, the Walker girl is still the Walker girl on packages of hair now. We do still have an issue where a lot of the people on packaging for hair are lighter skins. We also do see it sometimes where you do have somebody who might have a little bit of a darker skin tone, but it's rare and far between. I had to go through all my hair packs just to find somebody who was of a darker complexion. But again, the Walker girl that they were trying to use, again, it's the same issue we have now. So 100% get it. I get it, what they were trying to do. I think they could have had another foil. Again, make up a whole nother character who could have really shown the colorism aspect without using a real person who was not mixed, who was a whole African-American millionaire woman. And again, I just don't want people to take this as fact. A lot of people will not do their research on this, will watch this movie, turn it off, and just kind of go about their day and have this in their mind, when at the end of the day, Annie Malone was none of this. None of this, none of this, none of this. Again, there was a way to pick up Madam C.J. Walker without kind of tarnishing the Annie Malone name. And for some of you guys, you're probably like, they didn't tarnish it in my book. That's great. But for a lot of people, that name is tarnished now, and I just don't like that. I just don't really like that. Another kind of liberty with kind of facts, Lelia, Madam C.J. Walker's daughter, nowhere in the history books is she described as a lesbian. Again, nothing wrong with being a lesbian, but there is literally no mention of her being a lesbian anywhere. Even the book that this is based off of, which is written by her great-great-granddaughter, no mention of it. No mention of it. And again, I get you have to drive a little drama into it. You got to put a little bit of entertainment. But changing somebody's whole character, who she is, I didn't like that. I didn't like how they just changed a real person. Again, if this was not based on a fact, if this was not based on a real person, I wouldn't give a care too much. If this was a Dreamgirls, where it's kind of for the 5 heartbeats and, you know, you make liberties, but this is like a real human who breathed on this earth, and she is portrayed in this way, which again, a lot of people aren't going to do research. A lot of people are going to take this as fact and believe that her daughter was secretly a lesbian, and it played such a part into integral scenes. Like the whole reason she got into the Saunders drugstore, she got the opportunity to possibly be in Saunders drugstore, was because of a relationship which she was having with a woman. So again, a lot of the movie was built off of a plot point that really didn't happen. So it makes me sometimes question, well, did Saunders drugs, like, it makes me question the rest of the movie, when we could have depicted how she really got the Saunders drugstore and the way it actually happened. Don't know how it actually happened, but, and maybe there was no such thing as Saunders drugstore and that whole storyline was made up. I don't know, but it makes me question other areas, like, well, is that real? Well, did that happen? Well, did she get a photographer? Like, it just made me question a little bit. Again, if you you have a child who has to do a report, like I had to do a report on Phyllis Wheatley when I was a kid, if you have a child who has to do a report on Madam C.J. Walker, I tell her definitely read the history books and then maybe watch this movie for entertainment, but do not go in class and write your essay on this and say, you know, Madam C.J. Walker had an enemy. Her name was Addie Munroe. She was a mixed lady, and then, you know, the teacher will be looking at this report like, where did you get this from? It's like a movie. I watched a movie on Madam C.J. Walker's life and I got all these details. Her daughter was a lesbian, but her daughter's girlfriend got her into a drugstore and blah, 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 blah. It's like, no. This isn't real. This didn't happen this way. And again, I get you take liberties and you take historical liberties with movies because they have to make them entertaining, but I think with this movie, it could have been so more powerful to share some other things with her. Instead of putting some of the drama in here, talk about her philanthropy. You have to talk about how amazing this woman was about giving back, and we didn't see a lot of that. We just kind of see briefly her millionaire stage, her living in her mansion, living next to Rockefeller, which was true. She did live next to Rockefeller, but she gave back to so many industries. She was more than kind of the drama with her husband. She was more than all that. So again, I give this movie kind of in the same realm as the Five Heartbeats, mixed with a little bit of The Temptation, mixed with a little bit of that. You know, Titanic was a great movie for entertainment, but for historical accuracy, no, there wasn't nobody named Rose and Jack. I'm sorry if you're somebody who really believed that love story happened. It did not happen that way. But a lot of the other elements of that movie were true. The captain's name, they got all the characters, Molly Brown, everything right about Titanic, but they made a little bit of an element of love and drama. This movie, it just took so many liberties that I feel like you could have really told her story as it really happened. All the things that happened without adding in the twist of you know, Addie Munroe or her daughter or any of this Saunders drug, if that really happened. You know, it makes you question a little bit of the historical accuracy at the same time for entertainment. And I think we could have left out, and I think with just at the very end, two things that kind of took me like, soured my taste a little bit is we didn't need the stealing formula storyline too. I mean, even if she did, I don't know what that did for the movie, because it made you feel a little bad for Addie Munroe, Annie Malone too. Like, I don't know how to feel. Is it true that she possibly stole the formula from Annie Munroe? Absolutely. She worked for the lady, then started her own business. I don't know how that correlated, but I'm pretty sure if I worked at the Coca-Cola factory and I took home a bottle of Coke and then created my own Coke, you know, I created it from that, and I could have made Coke better. But again, I could see it, but for me, it just left me on a weird taste where it's like, well, now I definitely want the Annie Malone story, because what did she do? Like, now it made me want it even more. I'm craving to know more about Annie Malone and who she was as a woman and who she was, and looking and doing my research, because of course I did Google, did she steal the formula? And it's kind of unclear, because at the time making the product was very easy. It was just some chemicals and petroleum jelly. So again, it's almost like if you go get Advil and then you see beside Advil the store brand Advil, but it says compared to all the ingredients in Advil, we're the exact same thing. So again, it could have been she took exactly what it was, but it left a kind of a sour taste in my mouth. And also the beginning, Blair Underwood's character CJ Walker was so kind of invested in her and kept calling it R, and he decided to move with her when at a time men didn't even move. Men barely moves today. A wife could come home and say I got a new job, and a man is not gonna say, okay, we're gonna pack it up. He's gonna be like, I got a job too. So it would be a lot more communication, in the sense that she in 1909 or in the early over 100 years ago came home and told her husband she was moving, and he agreed with it. I was almost like, give that man an award. This man, men didn't do that. Men, even men today, again, I work in HR, work in recruiting. I give a woman an offer, she's like, well, I gotta go home and talk to my husband about it. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I understand. And then sometimes they be like, the husband said, no, I'm not taking the job. Thank you for the offer. I'm not moving away from, like, California to Charlotte, that type of a thing. But for a husband to say, I don't know the conversations that happened, because all we saw was we're moving, and then she paid, and then they packed it on up. A husband, he was very supportive. I guess in that the first two episodes, he was very supportive until, you know, he kept saying R and she kept saying mine, and then things took a turn for the worse. But again, I wish they had delved a little deeper into the transition, because it almost felt like he went from just really wanting it to be both of theirs, being just as passionate as she was, going and holding Booker T. Washington up at gunpoint and locking the door basically to fight for his wife to get into the store, to all of a sudden he took a sharp turn. I would have loved to see how that really played out, but I guess it played out enough on camera too, so I guess I can't can't be too picky about that. And I want to end this with, well, it may seem like I had a lot of cons, a lot of things wrong about this movie. No, I really did enjoy this movie. I liked this movie for what it was. It gave me that inspiration and that hope in the sense that, hey, I eventually want to do this. I want to get into manufacturing. I want to build my brand, and I have to look at, hey, how do I compete when there are shake and goes and main concepts and Outrays and Harlem 125s and companies that have been around way longer, and I want to infiltrate and disturb the space. How am I going to be able to do that? So I do like this movie overall. I need more movies like this, because we get like 19 Martin Luther King movies. We get about 20 of those. We done had one good Malcolm X movie. We done had Muhammad Ali. We've had all these people. I love and I want more like that. So that's why I like this movie. I do want more movies like this, but a little bit more historical accuracy, just for me, for somebody who does like history. Because for me, I don't care about any of the entertainment. If none of the drama were in this movie, I would have still liked this movie, and it still would have held up if it was just based off facts and things that actually happened. I'm this way as well because I think about these being real people. I think about, you know, I believe in heaven, and I believe things like, you know, Madam C.J. Walker's daughter could be turning in her grave right now looking at this movie like, dang, I was nothing like this. This was not who I was. I was not a lesbian. This was not my story. This was not. So again, that's the reason why I think I'm pulled away from and I want historical accuracy, because people, they may not be living on this earth, but I do believe they're living above us, and they can see stuff like this, and they're like, I'm rolling in the grave. I'm literally rolling. Even Madam C.J. Walker, that never, so rolling in her grave based off of a real life thing. And again, I would not feel this way if it were, you know, they had changed the name and pretended like it was based on Madam C.J. Walker's story. So if it was Cora Simpson, the first black millionaire, and if it was a whole movie based off of somebody who didn't really exist, but it was really based off of Madam C.J. Walker, but they twisted everything, I think throwing in storylines that never happened would definitely be something I wouldn't mind. But I definitely like this movie. I liked that it was told. Make sure you go support this movie. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I know I'm gonna get some thumbs down. Let me know why. If you don't give it a thumbs down, let me know why you disagree with any of the points that I made in this video. Let me know why you agree with anything I said in this video. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel so you don't miss out on any of this great content that I make for you guys. Make sure that you're following me on Instagram at Lavon89 so you can keep up with my shenanigans in real time, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching.